Good afternoon, friends and family of Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I'm so glad to have you join us this afternoon. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are at the Center for Spiritual Living by sharing our values. The number one thing on our list is spiritual growth and practice. That is what we are about at the Center for Spiritual Living. We value love. We value appreciation. We know that community is so very important, as we have been reminded throughout 2020. We value freedom, creativity, health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. Our mission at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. And that is also the mission of the larger organization, of which we are just one. There are over 400 centers for spiritual living, all located throughout the United States and Canada and the rest of the world. And our purpose as an organization is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. Meaning we believe that we all come into this world perfect, whole, and complete as spiritual beings. And sometimes the human is not so perfect, but what we want to do is get those two things lined up as much as possible. And our vision is a world that works for everyone. And so that is what we are about at CSL Ocala. And I am going to bring in our practitioner, one of our practitioners, Donna Davis, to have a quick chat and to do our invocation. And so here she is. Hey, Donna. Can you hear us, Donna? Donna doesn't know we're in. Hello. Donna. Hey, Donna. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to take her out of the stream for a minute. I don't know. You can't hear? She can't hear. Let's try again. How about now? Can you hear? No? Talk. You talk.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so
we can hear
sorry.
you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just
We
have to
can
fly blind then.
we can see you too.
I have no clue what you're saying. I don't hear a thing, not one word.
Oh
I've
my
been
goodness.
battling this thing for a couple
Oh
of weeks.
my gosh.
So I can do the treatment, um,
You
just do invocation and just do trust.
yeah.
Okay, let's we just take a deep breath and center down into ourselves. Allowing our lungs to breathe and our heart to beat. I recognize the allness of the one. One wonderful cause. First cause, the perfection that is God. I know that God is everywhere present. It is with me right in this moment where I sit. I am the place where God shows up. And because it's true for me, I know it's true for Reverend Cindy, it's true for Nira, it's true for everybody listening right now, and everybody who has no clue that we're talking into the divine field of knowingness. It is true for all of us that we are the place where God is. And as such, I know that today, God is expanding itself and expressing itself and reaching out into the world with this new idea. And the energy that is Nira and Cindy and Corinne and me and Norma and everybody else involved, the energy of those neighbors and friends that we touch, all of it is God. I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for knowing this. And as we breathe that in, it is well, it is well. I release it into the law, and so it is.
And so it is. Can you hear? Can you hear? No? Okay. Thank you, Donna. Love you. Okay. Oh my gosh, you gotta love technology. I guess it's really miraculous that we can do this every week, how we've been able to adapt to the changes. And so I guess, you're going to have glitches every once in a while. What can you do? We just roll with it. So I am going to bring in my dear friend, Nira Colyn. This is like part 2 of a conversation that we started last week that was absolutely fabulous. Nira is the executive director of Circle Up, Center for Practical Peacebuilding, which is a nonprofit organization that we are starting along with our third partner, Corinne Dean, who is not with us today. But Nira is with us, and we're going to continue our conversation and give you a little more insight into what Circle Up is about and what we are hoping to accomplish in our community, which has now expanded greatly, and to tell you about a program that we will be kicking off in January. So let me bring Nira in. Hey, Nira.
Hi.
And you can hear me, and I can hear you.
Yes.
So we're good. That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming back.
You're welcome.
Continuing this conversation, because I know we could have talked for a couple of hours last week. But time is what it is. So thanks again for returning. So we had a big day yesterday. We had day 2 of our in-person training. And I had some aha moments, and some things came to light for me. So I just wanted to, kind of catch up with you and let our viewers know what this program is about. And also, it's a hard thing to explain. So maybe we can spend a little more time today delving into that, and then talking about the actual curriculum and experience that we're creating for folks, and see if we can't kick 2021 off in style.
Definitely.
Right. So I don't know, what was your take on our time yesterday? I guess I should explain what yesterday was. That we did day 2 of a training that I have created, that I started at the Marion Correctional Institution, that is about social emotional learning. It's called SELF, SELF renewal. And that stands for social emotional life focused renewal, or healing, is really what it's about. And so this is like the accelerated version that we're in the middle of right now, where I took 4 sessions and put them in day 1, and then the next 4 sessions were day 2, and then day 3 is going to be those last 4 sessions. So we're kind of in the midst of it with a live group, and we will be doing the same program come January, once a month. So anyway. What was your take on yesterday? What was your favorite thing, or I don't know, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I have heard the content many times now, and the thing that sat with me was that no matter how many times you hear the content, there's always another level, something else that you get out of it. So you can definitely go through the training multiple times and still get something different. And I think it's different every time with the different participants, because they have, you have a shared experience in the training with whoever's there. And we had a different batch yesterday. Half was returning and half was new. And it always changes. And I just so impressed that I still learn something every time. It's kind of like you have like the tree trunk, and then you set the roots down, and then you grow the branches, and then every time I hear it, I add more leaves, and the branches grow fuller. And so that was probably one of the biggest take homes, that I still can learn more and more. And Yeah, that was a big one. I'm trying to collect my thoughts and say, what did I say? I was learning about, we talked about anger and sadness being two sides of the same coin. Don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but
Right.
concept that I don't want to ruin the how it falls on people if they take the course. But uh, what I realized for myself is anger shows up for me in the form of frustration, um, and it's oftentimes centered around the need to want to be in control or
Mm.
control. And even though intellectually, ideally, I know that I don't have any control. There is no control. Things happen, and you can't control everything. But that was a big one for me to be able to actually start to be okay with the next time I get frustrated, because that's going to be a wonderful opportunity for me to be able to look at that and go, where are you wanting control? How is this feeling like you're out of control? Or how can you be at peace with the fact that there is no control? So it's like taking an emotion that you normally don't want to experience and
Mhm.
flipping it upside down and going, hey, now, whenever, like next time I feel that, I'm going to be able to do something with it that's going to be constructive for me. I can actually grow in that emotion. Due to that emotion, I'm going to be able to grow more. And it takes, now I'm kind of like, okay, bring it on.
And that's a great paradigm shift, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we're so used to going the other direction from the stuff that's uncomfortable, right? Anger, whatever your thing is. For some people, it's anger. For other people, it's sadness. Like, I don't want to feel sad. I'm not going there. And, or fear, whatever that emotion happens to be. And then to realize that all of them are there for our benefit and how to really appreciate it and use it. And like you said, flip it. Let me see what's in here for me. What's the good? Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because that really is, I think, the first, if we go through the sessions, that's like the first thing is the idea of the paradigm shift, right? Of being open to looking at things in a new way, having new lenses, new eyes. Yeah,
Yeah.
so go
Yeah.
ahead.
And then the other thing I wanted to say is really that this is a life journey. It's a practice. So, even though we understand the material and we're teaching it and we're sharing it with people, we ourselves get soul food every time we see it presented and we share it with people. And that soul food is nurturing ourselves.
Yeah.
So and helping us grow even more, that there's just it just snowballs on itself, that it's a like a whole long life journey of practice.
Yeah. So I guess two things we should clear up, because we've heard this comment more than once about how difficult it is to explain what this whole idea is. Like, what is social emotional learning and peace literacy? And then the other piece is like, is this really for everybody? I think maybe people feel like, because I started at the prison, that, oh, well, this is for people that are, in a really bad way. Like, I'm okay, my life is fine, and fine is like a code for it's really not, but that's what we say. Because if I really told you, yeah. Anyway, let's roll with that. What do you think of this definition of peace literacy and what that means for the average person, not just people behind bars or people that have had difficulty in life?
Yeah, so peace is an interesting term because it can be kind of viewed relatively by different people on what exactly is peace, right? So some people might see peace as a lack of war. Other people might see peace as a lack of violence, or uh, somebody else might see peace as um, being centered and in a place where you can accept what is happening and maybe grow in that space, have some equanimity. So I think that peace literacy encompasses all of that. But really, it starts with yourself. Developing self-awareness, understanding your own needs and feelings, and how those things drive your behavior and how you're expressing out in the world, intentionally or unintentionally, and how that affects your relationships. So your relationship with yourself included, and your relationship with everybody else. And then how can you, by having that awareness, greater awareness, how does that show up? How do you come out there in the world, and how do you roll with things that you might not have been able to roll with in the past?
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said there about, how we show up in the world, either intentionally or not intentionally. And I think that this work shows up in this space where you may not even realize what the heck you're doing. We get caught in these patterns of behavior and things that may not work for us anymore, and I think this work helps to uncover that. Like, it's shining the light. And that's coincidentally or not coincidentally, the theme for this month with Centers for Spiritual Living is really all about illumination and shining the light in those dark places. And that's what I feel like this work does. It shows up in the places that you didn't know were there. And that's part of the paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I have a quote here. Let me see if I can pull it up. I believe it was the quote, either the Dalai Lama or they're both really good quotes. I'm going to put up the Eckhart Tolle quote. That there is only one perpetrator of evil on the planet, and that is human unconsciousness. With this realization, your victim identity dissolves and your true power emerges. Instead of blaming the darkness, you bring in the light. And I think that's a big part of what this self-renewal curriculum does, is to help show you the places where maybe you don't even realize you're showing up as a victim and not realizing your personal power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Realizing that it's all a matter of perspective, how you come into a situation. And if you've had like a decent amount of sleep and you've eaten well, and things are going fine at home, you can tolerate someone else's bad mood, or an extra assignment you didn't plan on, or getting your car hit with a bumper or something like that. You're going to be able to roll with that a lot better than if you didn't sleep well, or you didn't get to eat, you didn't get your coffee.
Right.
You had an argument yesterday. I mean, it's just the same exact experience, but you deal with it differently.
Yeah.
So, that's just, how often are we walking into situations not realizing what the baggage is that we're bringing into that situation?
Right. So peace then is really not, it's kind of like, I'm going to talk about it kind of like the spiritual path, because there are people that come into spirituality and they start on this path and they think that, oh, great, now I'm this spiritual being and I'm awakened and now life is going to be wonderful. And then you get into the self-blame when things are not going fabulously, or you've been doing all the affirmations for this manifestation and it doesn't happen, and those kinds of things. And I think that, well, I know that the human life is full of suffering and things happen. It's how we handle it. It doesn't mean because you get on a spiritual path that so-called bad things aren't going to happen, but that you have more tools for how to deal with it. And I think the same is true about peace building. It doesn't mean that there aren't going to be conflicts. that your needs aren't going to bump up against somebody else's needs, or you're not going to bump heads with people, but that you have more tools for how to handle those situations when they come up.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly to do it without violence.
Yeah. No, I mean, just addressing your first point was talking about the spiritual path and our expectation. I think a lot of people start a spiritual journey because they're trying to get away from the yuck, and they think it's going to be the answer to that. But I kind of look, if you look at nature as a perfect teacher, everything in nature is cyclical. We have day and night. We have, the light and the darkness. We have seasons where there is change. There's cold and there's hot. And I find myself with my spiritual journey that there are times when everything is just going fantastically. Like I couldn't have coordinated it better, and everything is just falling into place, and you're just like, yeah, thank you. And then all of a sudden, things like hurdles start being put in your path, and it's like an ebb and a flow. And the way I look at it is those the good times are a way for you to kind of like integrate and consolidate and kind of go, okay, the universe is on my side and everything's working well, and that's good. Experience that synchronicity and perfection. And then the hurdles get put in your way because, okay, now you're ready to level up. You're ready to level up spiritually. Like, are you ready to take out those tools and dust off that tool belt and, get to working? And that's where I use gratitude a lot, is, being grateful for the hurdles, being grateful for the struggles, because they're an opportunity for growth for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this curriculum, I think, is for everybody. We've talked about this. It really, anyone would benefit from it, but not everybody is ready to jump in, and do this work, because it does start on the inside, with the willingness to look at your own shadowy places and deal with that before, we can't change anybody else. So all we can do is lead by example.
Yeah.
Right.
I think this work is for any human being who has interactions with any other human being.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just you having interactions with yourself that are unsatisfying, right? So definitely, I think it's for everyone. And I think that's the challenge that we face in sending this message out there is, people often want to say, well, who specifically is this for? And we're like, anyone can use this. But yes, I agree with you. Not everyone is coming from a place where they're able to be introspective and self-evaluating and unpack some of the stuff that they might feel. I think a lot of people are operating out there going, things are happening to me, and none of it's my fault, or I'm not culpable in any of it. And they looking outside of themselves to fix the situation.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of things you have no control over, but you do have control on how you respond to what is happening to you. And that's where I think our course, the curriculum, helps in helping you see how can you strengthen your capability in coping and dealing with what comes.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe we should tell people like what the sessions are and give them a sense of that and how the sessions go. So, if they are interested in doing this, or if they know someone else that might be. So, because we can't be in circle, and that's what we're about, right? Circle up. We love to be in person and circle and looking at people eye to eye. But, we've got a close second, I guess, being able to meet on Zoom, where we can see everybody in those little squares and everybody's the same size and you can see everybody's face, and so it's kind of like a circle. And then we do some kind of opening. We will do some type of meditative moment or a guided imagery or something like that that's teaching people to integrate with their body and see where emotions and things are showing up as part of your self-awareness, right? To understand when you start to get triggered, what are the feelings that are happening in your body? So you can head them off at the pass, or no, maybe mommy needs a timeout right now because I'm starting to escalate. And then we do whatever the subject matter is, the topic, and some kind of interactive. It's all very immersive. We're not just talking at people, but really involving people as much as possible. And then we do a close, and that's pretty much the format, right? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that actually a lot of the learning comes from the participation of everyone in the course, and you learn from each other as much as you do from the facilitator.
Absolutely.
Um, and uh, I think that there's pros and cons to the virtual space. Um, the obvious pro is that there's more access for people from all over the country, and people who have busy schedules, they can log on at work or on their phone or whatever the case may be. So there's more access. Um, and I think for somebody who's maybe shy in person, might be more comfortable interacting with and speaking up on a screen, maybe. So I think there's going to be those people who are going to be like all about the format and love the virtual space. So
Yeah. The other thing, and you mentioned this, I think last week, was the idea of stretching it out so people can really soak it in. Right. So we're doing one idea, one topic per month, instead of, as we've done in the accelerated version, have 4 things at one time, where I think we heard it more than once. It's kind of like trying to take a sip of water from a fire hose. There's like so much coming at you at one time. So I don't want that to be anybody's experience. I really want people to be able to take it in and really integrate the material. So I think that is also a plus of doing it over this longer period of time.
yes, definitely. And well, do you want to talk about the what
The
the
actual sessions?
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we can talk about how we set it up to really enhance this point you just said about optimizing how well you can assimilate the information.
Yeah, yeah. So the first session is about paradigms and possibilities, and my spiritual community, the CSL community, has heard a lot about that over the past year, because that was like my theme, right? Is to identify those paradigms that we live in that seem like it's just the way life is, like this is just the truth of life, and to be able to identify the things that are maybe were true in our experience but are not true of life overall, right? For somebody who maybe grew up in some kind of dysfunction, and thinking that this is how everybody's family is, to find out there's other ways of doing it, and that we don't have to raise our children the same way, or whatever that situation happens to be. So that's the first session, is really about starting to identify the idea of what these paradigms might be that are so invisible to us in the moment, right? But those are the things that keep you in those cycles, right? Of behaviors that don't work, like the 10 pounds that you can't get rid of. Or the person who, I have a relative who has been married multiple times. I think he's on number 5. And they're all different women, but they all are like the same, they're all a variation on a theme. And then you want, like, why do you keep getting into this? So anyway, that's the kind of things that people can begin to identify and remove themselves from. So that's paradigms. Anything you want to add to that, or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think we become conditioned to think that there's only one way to approach an issue or problem or a struggle or a challenge. And many times the way to solve the problem is to change the way we think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe even not even think it's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Just the idea of taking an issue and seeing it as an opportunity kind of changes that frame shifts the situation. I think a lot of times we think things are happening to us and poor me, and and maybe it's a gift. Maybe that's happening to you because there's something in there for you to learn.
Yeah, and that's certainly the perspective we come from in Centers for Spiritual Living, is the idea that life is for you, that life is always unfolding on your behalf. And that's a big shift for some people. And, not to say that, is that the truth? Certainly it feels right. And it seems like truth for me. But that's not everybody's belief or experience. But I just, try it on. What if? What if? And how different would your life be? And how does that feel to consider that? So then the next one, I think, is power, right? We identify what power is, what it isn't, how to own your own power and start to notice the ways that you give your power to circumstance and to other people and go into that victim mode. So that's a big conversation. They're all big conversations, and I can't even say which one is my favorite. But what else? Then we have courage, which is another huge one. Just for some people, the idea that courage means not that you're never afraid, but that you're afraid and you do the thing anyway, right? And identifying the ways that we have acted with courage in the past, and maybe identifying some places in our lives where we'd like to have courage to go in the direction that we want to go in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that the courage is in the absence of fear, right?
Yeah.
Just doing it anyway. And sometimes it's just purely just having the courage to be vulnerable.
Yeah. That's one of the big ones, isn't it? Yeah. So then we have, let me see, courage. I should pull up the list so I can remember exactly what's next. Oh, we talked about trust. Trust is one of the big sessions, trust and respect. Like, what do those things look like? What does it mean for you? What does it mean for the people around you? And is there some universality in that? We're always looking for the universal principles. Like, what is respect at its most basic? And how do we ensure that we're treating others with respect and having others treat us with respect? Right. And then we have accountability and boundaries.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's for me, I think.
Yeah. Do you have any ahas? Anything you want to share about that?
Well, just that I think that sometimes we think that to be kind, we just need to give, and let ourselves be rolled over sometimes, and how that isn't necessarily kind. It's not kind to yourself. It may not be kind to those in your close family situation for you to be rolled over all the time. And that boundaries, clear boundaries that you hold can actually be kind to not only yourself but your family and the person who understands, because they know it's like the idea when we raise children, right? You create lines, like this is the line, and that creates a sense of safety and security. If you feel like if somebody you love is the kind of person that just lets everybody else push them over, then you really you can't rely that they're going to do what they're going to say they're going to do, because the next person comes along and says, no, I need you to do this, and then they're going to go do that. And so I like that boundaries, how beneficial they are in so many ways, that I think that I'd never thought of before, and
Mm-hmm.
how they serve us, and to be really kind and compassionate, like the real kind and compassionate people out there has set real clear boundaries.
Yeah, that's a paradigm shift,
Yeah.
especially for a lot of so-called spiritual people who think, they're supposed to be nice all the time or somehow agreeable. Realizing that boundaries are necessary for everyone's benefit. But then there's the paradox of you got boundaries, and sometimes boundaries can become like walls,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we're always doing this kind of balance of this paradox. It's not either or, but maybe it's both and, right? So that's another big conversation. They're all big conversations, goodness. And then yesterday we started with needs and feelings, which you started talking about already, and just being in touch with what your own needs are and the feelings that result when needs are met or when they're not met. And then how we interface with other people, bumping up against their needs that are met and not met. And how do you navigate all of that? And I mean, we're navigating them already. But if you pick up the paper, or you watch the news, you see that we're not navigating it very well right now as a collectively.
Yes. It's like we all have to interact and respond to each other, and we're all doing that, responding to our inner world, responding to our external world. But what this course does is helps us to be more intentional with how we are showing up and how we're responding and how we're interacting with our people. That intentional, like understanding that, like you were saying earlier, that a lot of this course covers things you didn't know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and you stop coming from a reaction mode and instead go into a response mode where you have a little more control over yourself, right? Control in the right place. And then we talked about difficult emotions, dealing with anger and sadness and grief and fear and trauma. And also resilience. That's another big thing, is what goes into resilience. Why is it that some people go through trauma and drama and come out on the other side, not beaten up, but actually stronger? They come out better. And what goes into helping people come out stronger on the other side? And then we talked about motivation, right? Like, what are our how do you get in touch with your purpose and your reason for being here? On the planet. I don't mean in Ocala, but I think we all have a reason for. We all come here into this human life with passions and gifts and talents that we are meant to share and to use for the betterment of all of us. Yeah, so that's a big conversation.
Yes. What is your why?
What's your why, right? And how to get to it super fast, relatively speaking, right? Yeah.
Yes. We did a really nice exercise that I don't want to spoil
Yeah.
anyone who wants to do it, but a really nice exercise yesterday that I hadn't done before.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy's always pulling out new stuff, and I like that exercise very much about connecting to our why. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So we have surprises for next time as well, the last day of our accelerated course. But we're going to be talking about how it is that we heal. We're going to talk about compassion and empathy, and teaching people how to enhance that in their lives. I've said before, these part of the idea of peace literacy is that we can learn these things. Now, clearly, some people are more compassionate than others. Some people are more empathetic. Some people are socially more adept than others. But it doesn't mean that we can't learn and we can't get better. And that's what we're teaching people. So empathy and compassion, and we're going to talk about how we actually restore restore our relationships through conversation, so that there is healing and growth for everybody. And what else are we going to talk about? Defining moments. And I'm really excited. I'm still working on the final pieces of pulling all of that together for our new format. And I'm just excited. I love to see people have that aha moment. And, you know, that happens in the class. It's like you see, I mean, you can see it in their countenance. You see it in everything, like burdens lifted and people shift right in front of your eyes.
One of the conversations that we had yesterday that I thought was interesting that we hadn't had before was the discussion about, okay, we talked about who needs the class. Well, everybody. I mean, anybody who's in a relationship with another human being, and including yourself, right? But who's ready for it? Well, not everybody. Some people are not ready to do the work on themselves, and that's okay. Hopefully, everybody will get to that point at some point, right? But the thing that I liked in the conversation that was interesting yesterday is that we all have relationships with people, like close friends or family, that we show up in a certain way. And one of the discussions we had yesterday was about, you know, I don't know that I could have this intimate, close, open conversation with friends that I've had for 30 years. And yet I'm having these conversations with these people in this class that I barely know. And we were talking about how, you know, we create that space, we create that safe space. We create an environment where people can feel comfortable sharing. And that was pretty impressive. You know, somebody to admit that, hey, I couldn't have this conversation with a friend I've had for 30 years, but I'm having this conversation with you guys, and how come that's happening? I'm so confused. How did you make this happening? And it's just the space we create in the class.
Yeah.
And I think it's also the intention. You know, we bring that intention to allow people to open up, and they come with that intention themselves to learn and grow. And it's a beautiful thing to see. It's not something you commonly in your normal spaces and relationships see happening. So there's a depth that we are able to reach that is pretty exciting. And then what another participant said, well, this is the only conversations in depth I want anymore moving forward, you know?
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. And, you know, it's true for me, even as the person who's created this thing. I mean, I wish I could have these conversations with everybody in my family, but the truth is I can't. That's why I'm always so grateful there are people that, you know, as I say, like to play in the same sandbox as me. Because we're in it together, and we grow together, and we learn together. And that's what I'm about. And that's what you're about. So I'm looking at our time, and we could go on and on, but we probably should tell people how to sign up. Do you want to give that information, a little bit more of like the specifics?
So to sign up so first of all, it's a 12-month course. Should we tell about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So Cindy has 12 modules, and so which just so perfectly fits into a 12-month formula. So every month we'll cover a different topic, and it's going to be on the first Tuesday of the month at 6:30 p.m. And it's going to be an interactive Zoom a meeting. And then a couple of weeks later, we're going to have another meeting on the third Tuesday of the month. That's going to be less structured and more informal in space for us to kind of share what's kind of showing up for us in our lives with relation to that topic. So you've had some time to think about it, read through the manual, and maybe even have a one-on-one partnering conversation with one of the other classmates in the class, and then you can come back and kind of talk more about it, so we can really learn from each other. Like maybe somebody's got they have a revelation they can share, or maybe they had a hurdle. They can't figure out like how to assimilate this idea, and we can share that together. So that's kind of how we're doing it. So it's like two sessions a month, and then it starts on January 12th, and
The only one that's not the first Tuesday.
yeah, only one that's not the first Tuesday because of the new year and everything. We didn't want it to be right on the tail of the big holiday. So it's on the second Tuesday, but following month it'll be the first Tuesday. And then to sign up, people can go to the Circle Up Center for Peace Building's Facebook page. We have a event on there that will link you directly to Eventbrite. The sign up is through Eventbrite, or you can go directly to Eventbrite and you can search self-renewal. So probably the Facebook page would be the easiest way to go. Or if you receive our Circle Up newsletter, that will have information in it. And if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter and are interested, that there's a sign up for that on our Facebook page. And so, so it's an Eventbrite event, and it's advertised on our Facebook page.
Terrific. And just so people know, we have a website, but it's down at the moment. So if you're looking for, is this place, are these people for real? Yes, we are. We're just having a little tech issue with our...
It's one of those hurdles, like what you could go, oh, poor us. Instead, we're taking it as an opportunity, right?
Yes.
Taking it as an opportunity to revamp it and change it up and add more stuff and learn more about actually managing the website ourselves, as opposed to leaning on nice people who do it for us and then disappear. And we right? So yes, so the Facebook page is right now the best way to link to it. So it's Circle Up Center on Facebook.
Yes, yes. Nira, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and for having this conversation. And we're both open to talk to anybody who wants to talk about this. And we'll be doing our Zoom call after this session this afternoon for anybody that wants to join us. And go check out Circle Up Center on Facebook. And Circle Up Live is another thing that's on Facebook, and sign up for our newsletter. Yeah. So thank you, my dear. Love you, and I appreciate you, and look forward to, we'll see you in Zoom. We'll continue the conversation.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. Thank you, Nira.
You're welcome.
All right. Love ya. Bye. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Oh, have a couple of comments. There's our Zoom link coming up, and all right, it is time for sharing our gifts and tithes. Let me pull this up here. Yes, I don't know if you know, if you're a follower of the center, you do, that the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala exists because of the generous giving of time, talent, and treasure to the center from our volunteers and our supporters. And if you would like to support the work of the Center for Spiritual Living, we've got a few ways that you can do it. You can always write a check, or you can do the text to tithe. The number is scrolling across the bottom at 352-320-5110. And what you do is you text that phone number, and once it's set up in your telephone system, all you do is text the amount of money that you would like to share with the Center for Spiritual Living, hit send, and it goes from your account to our account. Or you can donate via PayPal at www.cslocala.org/donate. And we are just grateful for whatever tithes and offerings people can give. Again, we exist solely from the contributions of our supporters. And so we really appreciate you all allowing us to do this work. And so our affirmation for our giving is that it is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. And so we share these affirmations, and you are welcome to make them your own. That is how we create. That's, we speak into the power and presence that runs in and around and through all things, and we speak our truth into that, and we affirm it, and we see it, and we believe it, and we bring these things to pass. And that's how it works. So okay. Take this out here. I will put up our prayer for protection, and let's see before we do that if we have any other things to share here today. It looks like we do. I want to share with you before we do this prayer for protection, an affirmation for today. And here is the affirmation. And again, I invite you to make this your own. Some people would do was write them down or cut them out and put them on their refrigerator. Of course, you're looking at it digitally, but I joyously walk in the light. My consciousness is illumined. I let my light shine. And maybe that's something you want to say for yourself, or you want to just jot it down and remember it as you go throughout the week. I joyously walk in the light. My consciousness is illumined. I let my light shine. And know that it is so, and know that myself and our practitioners are praying that for each and every one that is on the call. And now we will do our prayer for protection. And so just kind of put your hand over your heart if you feel moved to do that, or close your eyes, or say it along with me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so I affirm that for each and every one of you and for your loved ones. And I pray that you each have a wonderful Christmas in whatever way you're celebrating this year. I know it's a little bit different for everyone. Certainly it's different for me and my family. But I just wish you a very, very happy holiday, and wish you love and light, and look forward to seeing you next week. And so have a fabulous week, everybody. Hope to see some of you in Zoom.